Well, good evening. It's another Monday Mastery live at 5, and I'm your host, Rick Sodebeer. We're going to wait here for just a couple of minutes to let some folks come in. And I want to wish you all a very, very happy Thanksgiving. And I hope you all have great plans. And I know being single, that can be a this can be a tough time for a lot of us, and just out of loneliness, you may not have family or friends in the area or friends to do things with because everybody else is with their family. So it's a time to not only to give thanks, but it's a time to take care of yourself, not only physically but emotionally. Going through the holidays it can be very depressing. It's actually when it should be some of the most joyous time for most of us. It can be a very, very sad, very depressing things. Uh, I've been helping a friend the past couple of weekends to clean out her parents' house. They both passed away this year. So, I mean, there's going to be some serious emotions at the Thanksgiving table this year for them. So anyway, it's, there are a lot of things that we can do, especially during the holidays coming into the last month of the year, to take care of ourselves, to start focusing on becoming a better dater or learning new things to make dating easier for us. And one of the things that I wanted to focus on, number one, being thankful. Too often I run into people that they're down on themselves, they're down on dating, they're down on on the world. And when that happens, it just it sucks the life out of you. And when being that negative, you have to develop an attitude of gratitude and be thankful for the things that you do have. Be thankful that you've got a roof over your head, that you've got heat and lights to take care of you. Think of all the people that don't. Think of all the people, and especially in this year of 2020, just being I think everybody's just happy to survive this year. Think of all the wonderful things you have. You may not have the greatest car, you may not have the greatest house, but you have a car, you have a house. You may have great friends. Be thankful for them. Hey, Sylvia, thanks for joining in. And for those of you that are on, let me know where you're watching from today. I'm always curious to see where everyone's coming from. I just received notice this week that I sold a book in Australia, so I'm an international author. Go figure. But anyway, so that's something I'm thankful for. We can always find something to be happy about. Hey, Lanny, thanks for joining in. Shar, thanks for joining in from that's Aiken, South Carolina, if I'm not mistaken. Lanny's from Dallas. Thank you for joining in. Let's see, Jacqueline. Thank you. Jacqueline, I'm assuming you were in Florida, and Lois says yes. Let's see. Sylvia's from Texas. Sherry says Oklahoma. Hey, Sherry, thanks for joining in. Lois says, yes, it is tough when you have your children in another state and also having a son and his family living in Stuttgart, Germany. Holidays will be lonely, but I'm very thankful. Absolutely. And that's key, Lois. It is to be thankful. Yes. And it's going to be lonely. And one of the things that we need to do to take care of ourselves is to find things to do for the holidays, for Thanksgiving. One of my traditions, while it is a bit lonely, I in the past, when I've not gone anywhere, I've been home alone, and this is primarily, probably 6 out of the last 10 years, that I'd cook a big Thanksgiving dinner because I love the leftovers. The dinner itself was okay, but the leftovers were awesome. And so I always gave thanks for that, and I always looked forward to that. It didn't look forward to the cleaning because I make a big dinner, a full turkey, a pie, and stuffing, and potatoes, and beans, and the whole works. But it's then after the meal is done, you work 4 hours or 5 hours to put all that together. You eat it in 10 minutes, and then it takes you another hour to clean up after that. So it's kind of amusing. Jacqueline says it's beautiful here today. The weather was so beautiful. I want to grab it and hug it. Well, lucky you, Jacqueline, because we're here, and we had snow flurries today, and I had snow on my truck this afternoon when I went out. It didn't really stick on the ground that much, but we had snow flurries. And Shar says, I'm in the same boat. Family is far away, but don't want to bring the gift that keeps on giving. So so a very different Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's will be Zoom. Well, and Shar, that's a great idea. And see, you guys are awesome. Jacqueline says, I love snow. I'll swap with you. Well, I'm getting ready to head up to Michigan next week, and I'll bring some back with you or for you. But back to Shar's. That's an awesome idea. You can have Thanksgiving dinner together. Set up the cameras so that you all can eat together and watch each other and talk and have the same family conversation. And this is, while we've been able to do it in the past, it really Zoom wasn't really as popular as it is today. And you can connect multiple families all at the same time, which we've generally never done before. So that's an awesome idea. I love that. So there are so many different ways of connecting. If you're willing, you can get out and do charitable events. I don't know about churches with this latest breakout of COVID. I don't know if there are churches or civic organizations that are putting on their traditional Thanksgiving dinners. But there's, you can still help, you can still give. And one of the best things for the soul is to help somebody else out when you're feeling down. Shar says, truth. We had my mother's 96th birthday in June because of COVID, and she loved it. See, there you go. That's an awesome idea. I love that. And so there are so many different things that we can do, so many different ways that we can proceed. And as a single community, we should be reaching out to each other and offering each other help and support. Because again, it can be very lonely. Oh, getting back to my Thanksgiving, I make this big meal, and then after the cleanup, it allows me time to think and reflect on the year, because we're coming up to the end of the year. Just seeing thinking back what's happened, it actually allows me to start composing my Christmas letter that I send out in Christmas cards about things that have happened in my life over this past year. So, that might be something else you can do. Start jotting down notes or start writing your Christmas letter and just sharing all the highlights of your life. And so, and for those of us that aren't dating, you can spend time with other people, doing other things. Sylvia says, no Black Friday shopping. Oh God, no. That's no, actually what I do on typically starting on Black Friday is I start baking Christmas cookies for family and friends. And that's been my family tradition, or my tradition with my family for, gosh, it's got to be in excess of 20 years. The only sad part over the last couple of years, and it's not sad from the standpoint of the troops, but I would adopt a platoon of troops stationed overseas, and that was always a blast to make Christmas cookies for them, package them up, ship them out, and some of the letters that I got back were just absolutely awesome. But see, that's something else you can do if you like to bake some Christmas cookies for and take them to the fire department or take them to the police department. And that's because even our local first responders, they need our attention too. So it's bring them a plate of cookies and they'll be so appreciative. So there's just a ton of different things that you can do to lift up your spirits during the holidays. But moving on to becoming a better dater, one of the things that I've recognized, especially over the last year, is that there is really a systematic process that we can go through to make ourselves better, to avoid the bad relationships. Recently I've had some experience with several of you that have told me that you're people pleasers, that you give and give and give and give and give. And I've had a very dear friend tell me that she dated a guy for a couple of months, and she summed it up very well recently by saying that she was a giver and he was a taker. And it took her a couple of months to figure that out. And sometimes those things do take a little while. Hey, Gina, thanks for joining in. Sometimes those things do take a little bit of time to discover or to discern. But when you discover it, when you discover that you're doing all the giving in the relationship, and they're doing all, and he or she's doing all the taking, and not contributing anything significant to the relationship, it's time to move on. I was doing an interview for a podcaster today. We were talking to each other and getting to know each other to see if we were a good fit for each other. And he was sharing with me some of his stories and some of my stories. And one of the things that I shared with him, and I actually got into a little bit of coaching with him because he's single and dating. And, he shared his current relationship situation with me. And I pointed out, he's already recognized the red flags. And I'm saying, why are you sticking around? If you're seeing the red flags so quickly, there's really no point in prolonging the relationship. And like I've told you all so many times, it doesn't make either one of you a bad person. It just makes you're just not a match. Sherry has a great idea. Contact local nursing homes. Some of them are alone and don't have anyone. You can go in. However, a card and a gift would be nice. Or you can't go in. I'm sorry. However, a card and a gift would be nice. There you go, Sherry. That's another awesome idea. You're reaching out to others, that again, maybe even more lonely and than you are, because I know a lot of the folks in nursing homes never get to see anyone. They get no gifts. They get nothing, or at least very rarely. So you can always do something nice like that. Drop a $10 bill in the what is it? The Marine Corps Toys for Tots. You walk into Walmart or walk by the Toys for Tots booth, drop a $5 bill or $10 or $20 bill, whatever you can afford. Help make a child's life better, or better yet, volunteer with the Toys for Tots if they're looking for help, and which I'm sure most organizations are. I know there's a lot of organizations that get the names from schools, name the first names of children and age and things that they need and want for Christmas. Adopt a child in a Rotary Club that I used to belong to would do do a candy cane adoption, where they had you grab a candy cane off the Christmas tree and there'd be a name on there, and you'd go shopping and bring it back, and the Rotary Club would wrap it, and then they would deliver the packages to the kids at school, and there's probably still a lot of that going on. And Shar says, don't forget the food banks this year. Lots of hungry Americans out there. Absolutely. If you can give the gift of food, bring that to the food banks. That's always a great thing. So there's always ways of lifting your spirits, and when you lift your spirits, it helps. And Sherry says Boys and Girls Club, and that's another great organization. You guys have a lot of great organizations that you belong to or have been a part of, and there's always a way to reach out and help. And the point of this is that there's always, we can get so wrapped up in our loneliness or our sadness and aloneness that we forget about everybody else around us. And one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves is to do something for somebody else. Volunteer at a Boys and Girls Club, or at a food pantry, or whatever it is, or give a gift, and then you'd be surprised at how much better you feel. Smile. This time of year there can be a lot of grumpy people out there, cruising through Walmart or Target or the grocery stores, and just randomly smile at someone and say hi, Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving. Just don't be another Grinch walking down the aisles. I always smile at somebody, share a smile and a lighthearted moment. I was shopping at Costco today, and there was a gal with about 5 or 6 pies, and I don't know how many of you know about Costco pies, but they're about 14 inches or 15 inches for like $6. I mean, they are the most amazing pies, and you can't make it that cheap. But she had them stacked up, and I says, I'm coming to your house. There's going to be a lot of pie this year. And, we both chuckled about it. And so, you can do things like that to lighten the mood. But, as you start getting back and thinking about your dating life this year, look back and see what progress you've made. Look at the lessons you've learned throughout the year. Be thankful for those lessons. And some of those lessons are hard lessons. And some of the toughest lessons, some of the hardest lessons are come from the biggest mistakes we've made. And we all make mistakes. It's the nature of the beast. So, look back over the years or the year, and what have you done? What have you accomplished dating wise? What have you learned? Hopefully, I know I've worked with some of you individually, working on your must-have list so that you recognize, healthy relationships and unhealthy relationships, and that's part of the process of getting better. Being able to recognize what's right for you and what's not is a huge step. And some of you I know have learned that lesson or are learning that lesson because I've shared it with you individually. And it's so important to to stay focused so that you don't make mistakes moving forward that you have in the past. It's learn to recognize that just because you're not in a healthy relationship doesn't mean you can't move on and find that healthy relationship. Sometimes, and as I shared with somebody earlier last week, it was, and I've shared with so many people, that the pain of staying in a bad relationship is always greater than the pain or the pain of leaving a bad relationship. Excuse me. The pain of leaving a bad relationship is always greater than the pain of staying. But the pain of leaving is temporary, where the pain of staying is permanent. If you're someplace where you're not happy, it's time to move on. And because we all deserve to be in a healthy, extraordinary or soulmate relationship. And you can't do that when you're tied to somebody or dating somebody that doesn't have your best interest at heart. The comment I made a few minutes ago about being a giver and giving and giving and giving. If that's you and all they do is take, then it's time to move on. Again, it doesn't necessarily make them a bad person. It doesn't make you a bad person for wanting to move on and wanting more. It just means that you recognize that you have to count in a relationship. You have to be healthy. You have to be happy. And if you're living miserably, it's not a fun life. And life is too short to not enjoy it. Recognize some of the key components of a great relationship. Recognize that you need to develop an intellectual, a spiritual, an emotional, and a physical connection. Those are the 4 cornerstones of a great relationship. And Gina says, move on by giving back, volunteer, and meet other people. You would be surprised how many other people you can meet. Absolutely. Anytime that's an awesome tip, Gina, because there are a lot of people out there. And if you have a giving heart, go to some place where you can give outside of a relationship, and find people that are like-minded, that are willing to give to others and recognize the importance of giving. And you just might be surprised at who you'll meet. You might just strike up a conversation and a friendship that could surprise you. And because one of the important factors in any healthy relationship is to be able to give, to give to your partner, and to give basically unconditionally with no expectation in return. But they have to reciprocate. They have to give unconditionally to you, and expect nothing in return from you. And when you do that, you start reaching a level of extraordinary that literally defies words. It defies description, and it helps you develop a connection that is so deep and so strong. So there are so many different components, but this is a great time of year to start learning those things, and to start recognizing those things, so that as you finish up the holidays, because let's face it, we're 5 years or 5 weeks from 6 weeks from the end of the year, and then we're off into January, and be nice if we can all hit the ground running, so to speak. Make sure I've got everybody here. So if you guys have any comments or questions, it's critically important to be able to focus on healthy relationships. Somebody mentioned a little on my post earlier today that recognizing that our greatest mistakes can lead to some of our greatest life lessons. But she made the comment that because she gets very emotional about relationships, she tends to forget the lessons she's learned. And that's what that is that's infatuation taking over. And it just it's almost like the brain fairy coming and sucking your brain out for a period of time until and then at some point later on they bring it back, and then you wake up and say, oh, this really isn't the right relationship, is it? And Sylvia says, I go to Mexico with friends. We go to children's orphanage a couple times a year. This year has has been even challenging because of COVID, or even, I'm assuming, even more challenging because of COVID. But I love the experience and look forward to go every time we do. And that's, see, there's a, there's a mission that's you go to help people in another country. That's just awesome. You guys have so many great ideas. And that's why I love you all, because you make contributions to this for everybody, and give everybody else some additional great ideas. So there, and at this time of the year, it is all about giving. I mean, it should be about giving all year long. It really should. Christmas time shouldn't be and Thanksgiving shouldn't be the only time we be thinking about this. This should be a lifetime habit. It should be about giving every day. And it doesn't need to be big stuff. Like I said earlier, it could be a smile. It can be a handshake. It can be, stopping by the nursing home, and dropping off a card for somebody, or just making out just a birthday card and let the staff give it to somebody, that has it, or when a birthday comes up. Just an extra birthday card, from a stranger can make a world of difference. If you put a little gift card in it too, that would be awesome. Let them, because sometimes folks in nursing homes have a very tough time making ends meet. So, okay, we're all caught up. And so, it's, when you again, when you focus on the outside is when you help the inside the most. It's at least that's what I found. Hey baby, how are you doing today? Thanks for joining in. So this is a time of year, at least for me, it's a time of year of reflection. It's a time of looking back. It's a time of looking forward. And it's a time of making adjustments. And at least in my life, Shar says, yes, many times those simple acts mean more than anyone could imagine. Absolutely. And you would be surprised. At one point in my life, I was known as the waving guy down at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri. And I would walk between a stretch of highway between Lake Ozark and Eldon. And I became known for waving and smiling at everybody that went by. And for years, I did that for about 3 years. And it was amazing that after about 6 months, the response I would get. People and literally for several years after I stopped doing that, I would have people texting me or messaging me or through Facebook and asking, what happened? Where did you go? We missed the waving guy, but it was the whole premise was to be able to wave and smile, because that smile might be the only smile that somebody received that day. that wave might be the only wave that somebody saw that day. And I was blessed to learn so many great stories from that period of my life, and the people that I touched just simply for waving and smiling. And Nancy says, "Hey Nancy, yes, many times those simple acts mean more than anyone could imagine." Absolutely. So, and again, I'm not trying to toot my horn, but I'm just giving you examples of things that can be done, and that they don't have to cost money. They don't, just and like I said earlier, just smiling at somebody in the aisles at Walmart, especially this time of year when it can be so insanely crazy and people are grumpy. And what all, ultimately what all this does is it sets you up for a positive mood and a positive attitude. And, we roll into the next year, looking brighter and happier than we have this year. And, we've had a lot to stress about, but, anymore, it's, I just kind of roll my eyes. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. I still have my moments of grumpiness, but overall, it's a matter of it is a matter of taking care of you and your attitude and helping you move forward. Shar says, whatever little gesture you can share to brighten someone else's day also brightens yours, and always worth it. Absolutely. And that's what I've been trying to share. Shar said it a little better than I have tonight. So, and again, you guys are putting out some awesome comments and awesome ideas. I love these. That was a senior moment. I just had a thought and it went poof, just out the door. And but anyway, so all of these things again can set up your attitude, and can set up an attitude of gratitude, and set you up for a positive mindset for the first of the year. And again, it's important to from a dating perspective, it's nice to have dates for Thanksgiving and for the holidays. But one of the things that you have to be cautious of, if you've been dating for a while, and I know a couple of you have, it's okay to you start meeting family, and this is a time that you can really overwhelm somebody you're dating with a ton of family and introductions, and don't expect your date, if you're going to your family for Thanksgiving with somebody new that you're dating, don't expect them to remember everybody's name. They're just there's only one of them and maybe 15 or 20 of your family, and for them to remember everything, if they can remember 2 or 3 or 4, then you're doing good. And let that relationship build and grow as you date. And and this is also a good time to see how they interact with family, how they interact with strangers. And this is a great opportunity to observe how they're going to treat your family, how they're going to treat you in the future. Everybody can be on their best behavior only so long. And when they're, when you start to see red flags, if they start challenging your family politically or religiously, or just causing disagreements, or are drinking heavily, this is a sign that this probably isn't going to be a real healthy relationship. These holidays can be stressful in a dating and relationship situation, and can can really bring out sometimes it can bring out the best in us, and sometimes it can really bring out the worst in people. So Nancy says, great advice. Thank you, Nancy. So it's, this is a great time to observe those relationships or the people that you're dating, and see how they react. When things go wrong, how are they, and inevitably something's going to go wrong. Somebody's going to burn a pie. Somebody's going to burn a turkey. Whatever, whatever it is, somebody's going to forget something, and you got to run to the store, or if they volunteer, that just shows that they're willing to be a part of the festivities, a part of the family, and do what they can to help. And so there's a lot of great observations that can be made at this time of year if you're dating somebody. And if you're not, start prepping for the coming year. Take time to evaluate, again, like I said earlier, start evaluating your successes and failures in dating this year. Come to recognize that dating is all about the numbers. It's all about, and it is not trying to see how many people you can date. It's dating people and then seeing if they're a good fit. If they're not a good fit, then it's time to move on. Don't stick around. And that's such a common problem that and ladies, with all due respect, this is more your territory than with guys, but it happens with guys too. That you stick around and you try to make something work, and you may even try to change him. Don't stick around and try to change him. It's not going to work. It's that's asking for disaster. So, just observe as you're dating. Be yourself, observe. And if you start observing things that aren't a good fit, it doesn't, you don't have to stick around. You got to start over again. But it doesn't mean you have to stick around to see how many red flags you can see. Nancy says, that's my $1 million question. Share with me, Nancy, what is the $1 million question? Where to look? How best to move on? That's a great question. That can be very easy. And I'll use Nancy. I'll use you and I. If we were dating and you saw that I wasn't a good fit, it says, Rick, I really like you, but I recognize that this isn't the relationship that I'm looking for. And I wish you all the best. And there, I'll probably come back with some discussion and say, and depending on how the following conversation goes, you'll really know that whether you dodged a bullet or not. Because a lot of people, men and women, will come back and start justifying why you shouldn't let them go. That you're really missing. You don't know what you're missing. You haven't given me enough chance, or I can change. I know I can. I need your help. No, you're not there to take care of anybody. You're not somebody's therapist. You're not anybody's therapist, unless you do that for a living. But don't do it to your own relationships. That coaching or that relationship or therapy needs to come from somebody else. But it really is quite simple. Nancy says, you make that sound so easy. And Nancy, when you've done it a couple of times, it's never easy, but it becomes it does become easier, and it's always nerve-wracking because you don't know how somebody's going to respond. And not that long ago, I had to break off conversations with somebody, and because the conversation was just going downhill very quickly, and I said, let's just end it here. And that's all it took, is let's just end it here. And and then her next response showed me that there was some real anger and aggression built up inside her, and that just told me right there that I dodged a bullet. And it doesn't make her a bad person. It's just it wasn't a good fit for me, and professionally, I don't think she's quite ready for that kind of, for a long-term relationship. Shar says, going through that right now. Shar, don't go through it. End it. Don't drag it on. And because you can drag it on. You can, if it's being dragged on because he keeps calling, then you need to start blocking him, on social media, on your phone, however you're in contact. And because the minute you respond to his calls, his emails, his texts, comments on social media, you open up even if you're telling him to go to hell, all you're doing is opening up the door for additional conversation. And the conversations go something like this. Oh, John, just leave me alone. Just go away. This is not a good relationship for you, for me. Oh, Shar, I know I've screwed up. I've made mistakes. I really like you. I really want to date you. And, you're so good for me, and you're so good to me. I just don't want to lose you. And he starts plucking your heartstrings. And, I don't know if you can hear that. I just plucked a string on my guitar. He starts plucking at those heartstrings, and pretty soon, you're getting sucked back into this thing, and because you're feeling guilty about walking away from him. But Shar, you've got to take care of yourself. Because it's not all about taking care of somebody else. It's about taking care of you. Nancy says, good Lord, doing this once would be miraculous for me. Well, that's all it takes is once, and once you do it, it's like doing anything new, Nancy. It's always the most difficult the first time. You're nervous. You don't know what to expect. And probably half the time you're going to get, yeah, I understand. I'm kind of feeling the same way. The other half of the time is, Nancy, you don't know what you're missing. You don't know what I have to offer. Excuse me. And whatever the line is, he said, I can change. I can do better. I need your help to be a better man. Whatever it is, that's not your job. It's not your job to make him whole. Baby says, not unless you love so much and be a martyr. No, baby, you should never do that. Never, 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 never. You deserve better than that. Never be a martyr for a relationship. If you're doing that, baby, I highly suggest that you actually seek some counseling or therapy, the professional counseling or therapy to help you work through that. You should never, 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 never take that role in a relationship, because that's just setting you up for use and abuse. They're not there to be in a relationship with you. They're there to take advantage of you. And it's what I mentioned earlier, that if you're a giver and they're a taker, there's a total imbalance in the relationship. You need to find a relationship where you're both giving equally, with no expectations in return, and it's just that's just not healthy, baby. You have to learn to and I can't coach you on this in this format, but seek guidance from a counselor or therapist to help you get out of that mindset. I mean, that's absolutely critical. Shar says, have you been talking to him? No, I just know men, and I've done this long enough that I know how we act. I think the peace you feel once you make yourself walk through that helps make it easier if you have to do it again. Absolutely, the first time is always the hardest. It's never easy. It is. And I've done it quite a few times, because I recognize what I'm looking for in a relationship, and what works for me and what doesn't. And I teach the same thing to my clients. And when you're crystal clear about what you want and what you'll accept, and crystal clear about what are deal breakers, it becomes a lot easier. And again, it doesn't. Hey, Barbara, thanks for joining in. It's never too late, unless you get here when we're wrapping up. But you're fine. It's always again, it's always toughest the first time. But again, you have to, when we're talking about relationships, you have to take care of you. You can't be taking care of everybody else and neglect yourself. And that's what too many people get sucked into, that they need to take care of everybody else. And ladies, you all are really guilty of this, because you are nurturers. You raise children, or most of you have. And it's you're so used to that nurturing. Don't do that with your man. I mean, you can do that with the person you're in a relationship with, the guy you're in a relationship with, but make sure he's nurturing back, that he's giving back to the relationship. And that's one of the reasons I think it's so important to understand and speak similar love languages, because you naturally come together and communicate on a much deeper level. You're not, I've had stories recently where, the husband says, well, I just don't feel loved. I do this and this and this and this for you. And she says, well, that doesn't mean anything to me. I want this. I want quality time. I don't care about all the things you do for me. That I can do those things. I want you to spend time, and I want words of affirmation, or whatever it is. So when you're not speaking similar love languages, it's much harder to communicate your love for each other. Maria says, hola, Coach Rick. Hola, Maria. And Sherry says, these boots are made for walking, tennis shoes for running away, stiletto heels for stomping toes. Use them, ladies. I'm learning. Great observation, Sherry. I love it. And Sherry, you're absolutely right. The boots are made for walking. And there's a song in there somewhere. We could probably get Nancy Sinatra to sing it. It'd be a big hit. I'd never work. Anyway, Nancy says, thanks, Shar. And Kathy says, are you saying you should be rigid and not bend? Yeah, pretty much. And here's what I mean, Kathy. If you've got your list of must-haves and you know what your deal breakers are, those that should be a. If you're not familiar with creating a the way I create a must-have list, Your must-haves are non-negotiable characteristics that you want in your next relationship. And the key word is being non-negotiable. Now, if it's negotiable, and an example of negotiable would be, there might be someone that earns $1 million, dating somebody or getting in a relationship with somebody that earns $1 million a year. That would be nice to have. That belongs on a separate list. That is negotiable. But there are going to be certain things that you need to have on your must-have list. And so many of you ladies, God love you, most of you come to me and say, when I ask if you know what your must-haves are, you're going to say honesty, loyalty, trust, trusting, faithful, those types of things. They're kind of nebulous terms. But what are some specific things? Such as being financially secure. And that is different for everyone. Somebody's financially secured, that's financially secure to me, may not be financially secure to you. Depending on where you're at in life, must have a job. I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, yeah, he doesn't have a job, I'm tired of supporting him. Well, so Kathy, yes, there are certain things that you need to be absolutely rigid about. And if you're not, you're going to end up settling for less than extraordinary. And the whole point of everything I teach is to help you find that extraordinary and not settle for less. You deserve, our society teaches us that we deserve the best car, the best jeans, the best appliances, the best house, the best neighborhood, the best schools. Yet when it comes to relationships, we're told, no, you're too picky. You can't have everything you want. No, that's just, the people that are telling you that are the people that have settled. They want you on their level of misery. They don't want you to be happier than they are. And I guarantee you, one of the pushbacks I get on the must-have list is that, well, you can't have everything. You'll never find someone that has everything on your must-have list. And I had a woman that I had talked to, and this was a couple of years ago, and we were talking about dating, and she says, you're crazy. You'll never find someone with everything on your list. And she says, what's on your list? And I went through my list, and there was dead silence on the end of the phone. I said, well, how many did you miss? She said, none. I met every characteristic that you're looking for on that list. So she made my point for me. So she had to start rethinking her thought process. And the other part of that is I've interviewed a lot of different soulmate couples or extraordinary couples or extraordinary relationship couples, and individually and as a couple, they have all said the exact same thing. They've all said that their mate has brought more to the relationship than they ever could have imagined. So the list that you put together of your must-haves and your deal breakers, that's just a basis. That's what you recognize. But I promise your mate, your extraordinary mate or your soulmate will bring so much more to the relationship, and it will be such a deep connection that it literally defies description. It literally defies words. Let's see. Now, and Kathy, just one more thing. Can you be flexible on some things? Sure. Can you be flexible on which way the toilet paper rolls over unrolls? Can you be flexible on where you squeeze the tube of toothpaste? Can you be flexible on where you go for dinner? Absolutely. Those are things you can compromise on. Those are things that you can figure out. But the fundamentals of the relationship that you want should never change, with certain exceptions. And I'll give you an example. From my list, I want somebody that earns a decent living. But now I'm getting close to retirement age, and that means that just that particular characteristic or that particular trait that I'm looking for is aging out. When I made my list, I was 52 or 53 years old. So I've had my list for about 10 years. So, there will be certain things that will drop off over time. Or if you discover that it really isn't as important as you thought it was, that list can change. You can be flexible that way. But for the most part, if it's a non-negotiable characteristic, it's something that if you have 19 or 20 items on 20 traits on your must-have list and he meets 19, the first words out of your mouth should be next. And I know I can hear the gasps in the background because you're saying, whoa, well, that's pretty strict. Well, yeah, it is, because again, these characteristics should be non-negotiable. And the minute you negotiate one away, two away, you're settling. You're settling for less than your extraordinary. It doesn't make any difference to me. And you can do whatever you want. But the minute you settle, somewhere, it'll be fine now. But somewhere down the road, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you're going to be upset at yourself because you didn't stick it out and find someone that had all the characteristics that you want. And baby says, thank you so much, Rick. You have just gave me a lot of enlightenment. I appreciate it so much. I'm learning. Well, thank you, baby. I'm glad. And that's the whole point of being here. I'm trying to help, trying to give you insights, trying to give you focus on dating and relationships and being able to move forward in a healthy way. I can only speak for myself and a couple of others of you that I've talked to, but I know for one, I have chosen poorly in the past. I was with my ex for 25 years, and God love her, we had some good times together, and she, in so many ways, she was a good woman, but it was just a terrible fit. And I can go back to the first 30 days that we dated and recognize the red flags, and I ignored them. That's part of the reason I can sit here and tell you that you need to be firm and be unwavering on your must-haves and your deal breakers. And don't misunderstand me. That list isn't the end-all be-all to a relationship, because you have to develop an intellectual, spiritual, emotional, and physical connections. You should be speaking similar love languages. And then there's the chemistry. The chemistry is that magic sauce that just permeates the whole relationship. And the chemistry is different than infatuation. The infatuation is the silly feelings, the rainbows, butterflies, and unicorns that you feel in the beginning of a relationship. And it's the weak knees. It's the excitement, the desire that you have to be with somebody initially. But there comes a point in time, and that can be as long as 2 years, maybe a little bit longer. And that eventually starts to wear off. And when that infatuation wears off, the blinders come off, and you start to see the relationship for what it is. Your friends and family may have been saying, no, this is not the right person for you. They can see it because they're not blinded. They don't have the blinders on, the blinders of infatuation and raging hormones that you've got going on. And that's why it's so important to have your must-have list, so that you can step back from the infatuation and the raging hormones, at least for a few minutes, to evaluate what the relationship looks like. And if you recognize that it's not a healthy relationship, if it's not an extraordinary relationship or doesn't have the potential, that's the time that you break it off before you get all wrapped up in a relationship for a year, 2 years, 5 years. And then you look back and say, no, I can't give up because I've invested all this time. And then you're going to be, now what do I do? And so the whole idea in the whole process, and it is a process, and the first step is becoming crystal clear in what you want, and recognizing the importance of sticking to your values, to your goals on that relationship to ultimately be happy. Sylvia says, "You're so right." Thank you, Sylvia. I like to think so from time to time. I'm just being silly. Shar says, chemistry is the big problem I face right now. He is bubbling over with chemistry, but I am not. And oh God, okay, I'm going to get to that in a second, Shar. That's a great observation. Even though he really checks all or most of what would be on my list. Frustrating. Yeah, Shar. And we've talked about this. It's time to cut him loose. It is in what you're describing is a one-sided relationship. He's got the chemistry, and it's more infatuation. I would highly argue. I would highly disagree that it's chemistry at this point. It's more infatuation than anything, and so that's number one. Number two, being a one-sided relationship. He's the one willing to do anything and everything for the relationship. You are not. You actually are the one that's in control. You're the one that's in power here, because he will do anything to make you happy, in theory. But again, if you're not feeling it, there's no point in sticking around, because if you're not feeling any attraction now, if you're not feeling a connection now, odds are it's just not going to happen. And if I'm not mistaken, Shar, if I recall correctly, this has been a couple of months now. And if it's not there, it's just not there. There's nothing you can do to magically wave a wand over him or over yourself to make it feel different. He may be a great guy. He may, but there are still characteristics about him that you don't like. So it's time it's just time to sever those ties and move on. And I know that sounds cold, but again, you're looking for an extraordinary, and you all should be looking for that extraordinary relationship. All should be looking for your soulmate. And those are the needle in a haystack relationships. Okay, Shar says he is a great guy. Okay, then if you're not feeling it, share with me what's the point? Just because he's a great guy, it doesn't mean anything. I've met a lot of great women, and I'm not with them. And the whole point here is that if it's not extraordinary for you and you're not feeling the connection, there's no point in staying. Lanny says, so is it a lack of chemistry, or is it putting the emotions in check? Lanny, and if that question is directed to Shar, it sounds like it might be directed towards Shar. And that's the whole point of the must-have list, is because you put the emotions in check. Because every time you make decisions based on emotion, you're generally going to make bad decisions. Oh no, just in general. Okay, thanks, Lanny. Well, it can be both. I've met women where we've had great chemistry, but nothing else. There's no intellectual, spiritual, physical, emotional connections. Well, I take that back. There could be a great physical connection, but you don't have intellectual, spiritual, or emotional. Or I've met people where I've had a great intellectual connection and nothing else. No, and I mean, we could have great conversations for hours, but there's nothing else. The most we could ever be is friends. It could never go any further. So the chemistry is something that you really, while it's and you have to be able to step back from the infatuation. And again, I go back to the must-have and deal breaker list. If because that will be your guide or your tool to allow you to step back. And then you can take a look at the chemistry. Is there chemistry? Do we have a lot of things in common? Do we have great conversations? Are we on the same page spiritually? Are we connecting emotionally? And the emotions can take a little bit of time. You really do need it all. This is the big takeaway. Yeah, and that's Shar says you really do need it all. That is the big takeaway from all of this. Absolutely, because and Shar, that's the enlightening moment there. That is because if you don't have it all, you're settling, and you never will be truly happy. I mean, you could have a good relationship. I mean, I'm not saying that you couldn't have good, but it's never going to be extraordinary, and it's extraordinary that puts you over the top. It's the extraordinary that makes you want to be a better person every day for your mate. It's what makes you want to give to that person and expect nothing in return, and they'll do the same thing for you. Lanny says, so now I'm trying to go non-infatuation and emotionless, and that feels funny. No, and that's no. Don't misunderstand me there, Lanny. The emotions will still be there. Don't misunderstand me. But decisions about relationships should be made on logic and fact. Does she have everything that you're looking for? Does she have any of your deal breakers? Do you have a good intellectual connection? Can you talk about anything and everything? And personally, I think everything has to be on the table. Now, there are going to be some subjects that are touchy, and you may agree to disagree, but you're not going to attack each other or come at each other with the long knives if you disagree. The chemistry is what will keep the relationship going, long term. But what we all too often do is we confuse infatuation with chemistry. And the infatuation is that your new mate can do nothing wrong. Your new mate, aren't they wonderful? Oh, look what she does for me. Look at how she treats me. And the whole time you're missing the red flags. But what about this over here? What about this over here? So and I'm not telling you to be emotionless in a relationship, Lanny, not at all. And it is so important to understand that, but it's important to step back from the emotions and look at things logically and say, does she have everything I'm looking for? Does she have any of my red flags? And typically we only can do that when we can step back out of the infatuation and the raging hormones, because let's face it, we all have them. Even at my age. So anyway, and Lanny says, yes, all is the goal. And that's the whole idea. And just like Shar, you want to have it all. And where I find that 95% of people or 98% of people make mistakes is they jump into relationships based on emotion. And they completely ignore the facts or the red flags of a toxic relationship. And I've seen too many people dive into relationships head first and only to find out they're dating a narcissist, and now they're being emotionally abused, and then it's really a problem. And if you don't have the components other than chemistry, the chemistry will wane over time too. Absolutely. because there's nothing there to sustain the ebbs and flows of the chemistry. There's nothing there to sustain the ebbs and flows of love. And that's why it's so important to have all the components, the four cornerstones, all of your must-haves and none of your deal breakers. Speaking similar love languages, that's all part of it. There's so many moving parts to an extraordinary relationship. And it's important to find somebody with all of those components that both of you match, and that's why this is a numbers a numbers game. I hate to use the term game because this isn't a game we're playing. It's we're dating. We're trying to find extraordinary. And Shar, I think you've had extraordinary in your first marriage. And so what I'm talking about. You recognize that. But all too often we get caught up in being lonely or being alone. We don't want to do things on our own. We want somebody in our lives. And that's where we end up settling because we just have that desire. And that's where, it's rather than waiting and being patient, which is never any fun. It's never fun being patient. I can't tell you. It's never fun hanging out alone. It's never fun being the third wheel, when other couples invite you out. But it's part of the reason we need to develop other circles of singles. It's part of the reason we need to be true to ourselves. You need to be true to you. And if it's not working, then don't accept anything less. Sylvia says, I'm not getting any younger. Well, Sylvia, neither am I. And and just from my own example, I've been single for 10 years now. When I got a divorce, I thought, 9 months, a year on the outside, I'll be with my soulmate and living happily ever after. Well, let me tell you the lessons I've learned, and patience is one of them. And Nancy says, whew, I've got work to do, but believing it will be, believing it will be worth the effort. Absolutely. And I promise you, it will be so worth the effort. Baby says, but no one is perfect partner. No one is a perfect partner though. So confusing. Baby, don't confuse what I'm saying with somebody is perfect. Nobody is perfect. You are absolutely correct. The only one that's been perfect on this world is Jesus Christ himself. And what I am saying, baby, is that there is someone perfect out there for you. And there's somebody who is looking for somebody. You'll be somebody's perfect mate. There's a big difference there. Don't confuse you having to be perfect. No, we're all human. We all make mistakes. And I'm not saying that extraordinary relationships are not without problems. There's no such thing as a relationship without problems. What I do know is that when you're with somebody that's your soulmate or your extraordinary mate, you've taken out as many of the hurdles or the roadblocks of the relationship as humanly possible, and it's you're still going to have arguments. You're still going to have disagreements. But when you're with that extraordinary person, you're going to be able to work through your issues. And rather than fighting and getting, and you still may get angry, and you may even slam doors from time to time, but you come back together and you fight for the relationship. You don't fight each other. You fight for the relationship. So baby, that's it. It's important to understand that there's no perfect person, but there is somebody perfect for you. just like you're going to be the perfect person for someone else. So I hope I've clarified that for you. Nancy says, so right. Thank you. So it's, don't get caught up in the mindset of that you have to be perfect. No, you have to be you, and you have to be the best you that you can be, but never should you expect yourself or anybody to be perfect. Shar says that's exactly right, and it's a conversation you have to have and a decision you make together that we are worth it. That's exactly right. And with that, I just looked at the clock, and holy moly, we're an hour and 15 minutes here. I love you all for hanging in. This was a long session tonight. I love it. God, you guys are great. And so anyway, let's wrap it up right there. And if you have any questions or thoughts or concerns, you can shoot me a private message, and I'd be happy to try to answer questions. If you need to schedule some coaching time with me, if this is your first time, you can do a free 30-minute consultation. Otherwise, we can schedule some one-on-one time, and there is a fee for that, but we can talk about that at the time. Shar says, really good session. You brought clarity to what you've been trying to make us understand. Thank you so much, Shar. Baby says, all right, I understand. Thank you, Rick. Love your advice. Thank you. Nancy says, thanks. Great session. Oh, my pleasure. Thank you, guys. And Sylvia says, thank you. Thank you, guys. You guys are the ones that make this. And I'm so glad I'm here to be able to help you all and to hopefully help change your lives and help you guys move forward. In the meantime, have a great week. Have a very happy Thanksgiving. I will see you here next week. Same bat cave, same bat channel, same bat time. And I love you all. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Love you guys.